My name is Stefan Pascal. I'm actually local, based out of Scottsdale, Arizona. I had my bachelor's in 2012. I took the 10-year approach to get that. Thank you for tuition reimbursement and flexibility of University of Phoenix. My MBA with the group as well. Enjoyed the entire time, 20 plus years in technology inside of Wells Fargo, 6 plus at Allstate, and like many of you, thanks to University of Phoenix, that entrepreneur spirit as well. I've had my own tech company for the past 6 years. But that's me in a little nutshell, but let's find out more about our panelists. So I want to do the justice of having you each give a brief introduction of yourselves. Tim.
Hi, my name's Tim Reif. I'm the founder and CEO of Life Navigator. It's a multi-agent application that will be launching in a few months that is going to help with decision-making for personal decisions in regards of finance, healthcare, education, and career.
Hi, I'm Charles Nellis. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at a company called The Joint Chiropractic. We run a franchise model of chiropractic centers across the U.S. We have about 960 sites right now.
Ross Granger, Chief Financial Officer at Nasuni, MBA 2015. And before Nasuni, which I've only been there a few months now, I was part of Paradox, and prior to that, WebPT, two of the most successful software companies that exited in the Phoenix area.
Awesome. Jamie Smith again, CIO. I've actually, I call myself a reformed consultant. So I worked with PricewaterhouseCoopers and IBM for a lot of years, and then I worked for Nissan as well as Service Master before in home services. First time in higher ed, but the mission is what attracted me to University of Phoenix, and you all have felt it, viscerally and see that it's real. That's what keeps all those people there for so long. And like I said, I'm still a bit of a newbie, but very excited.
All right, so let's get started. And you know what's nice, being a part of a university, you expect sometimes some different metrics that are shared with us, and there's actually going to be the 2026 UOPX Career Optimism Index that's soon to be released. And as we were promised, a lot of that's dealing with artificial intelligence. So I'm not going to waste our time going through those individual bullet points from that index, but I might reference them in some of the questions. So what do you say we have some fun now? So Lem, you already started to get us scared. I mean, excited about what's going on. And so I had some questions. So most of these gentlemen haven't seen them yet. So we're looking at this crowd and what interests us. I want to start you off slow, right? So a softball lob question just to get the juices going. Now, that index that I just referenced shows that AI is increasing workers' confidence in career mobility, with 50% saying that AI makes them more confident about pivoting into a new role. So, is AI becoming primarily a productivity tool, a career growth tool, or a workforce disruption tool that's going to send us all to the unemployment line? What would you say?
Can we just say yes?
Yeah, there you go.
All three?
Yeah, same. I think it's yes for all three. It's really just further abstraction from a particular skill set to you, right? I was talking to my son who's with me today about the things that I talk to my staff about and my coworkers about is if you're employed or you're career mobile or you're doing well because of what you know, it's coming for you. Not just AI. You've been in trouble for quite some time if you're the guy. We get this a lot in IT, yeah. Right? You get the guy who's like, oh, they'll never fire me because I'm the only one who knows how this works. Guess what? Project to replace that, and now you're not useful anymore. So it's a force multiplier for people who can do things like learn and solve problems, etc. Well, now I can solve problems anywhere. I don't know real estate. Well, now I do. I have a buddy, right? I don't know programming. Now I do. I have a buddy. So it really puts a focus on that. So I think it is. It's all three.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're seeing it as role expansion and role convergence at the same time. And so what do I mean by that? Oftentimes in larger companies and at the university is no different. We have very specialized roles. I'm a UX designer. I'm a product manager. I do these things. With these tools, you can be almost all of those things to a reasonable level. And so, one, I think you have to redefine kind of what your value is, both to the organization and kind of what you bring to this as a human. That's the first piece. I'd say second, thinking about long term is how much of that productivity accrues to the individual versus the company, right? And so right now we're kind of in what I call the Huggies pull-up phase of AI a little bit, right? Trying to get on our big boy and girl pants, but we're not quite there. And in that, I see a lot of things where it's making individuals a lot more productive, which is great. Some of that accrues back to the company. Some of it allows you to do one more Zumba class a week or whatever, right? Like it's especially being fully remote, we see that. I think as we get into the agents and that role expansion, it is going to be interesting. And then seeing where the workforce goes. The people that are using it are still going to be relevant, and you have a bit more runway, but it's going to redefine how we think about work also.
So I agree 100% with everything everyone said. I think that some of the things that we're going to start seeing is that the opportunities for all three of those are there. And so it's going to depend on the individual doing a few different things. So in terms of like for career expansion, for example, one, of course, you need to learn how to use these tools the right way. And in order to do that, you're going to have to start learning without kind of an ego in a sense, because these tools are going to continue on your sentiment, the way you're asking them to do things. So if you are telling it like you know exactly what's going on, it's just going to continue to tell you that you're doing the right things and all these different things. And if you're not, then it's going to be a big problem. And then on the other sense of, you know, the benefit that the company is gaining from these, one way that employees are going to be able to really show that they are what's driving this, even though that these tools help them, is, you know, really keep track of everything you've done in terms of, okay, my productivity has gone up. I did this, and this week. And each week, you know, keeping track so you can, you know, email, for lack of a better way of doing it. Each company has a different way of doing it. But email your supervisor and say, we've accomplished this, and this. This is what's going on the plan next week. You know, so they see that, okay, this wasn't Claude that did this. This was, you know, whichever employee. And on top of that, it's going to allow you personally also to be able to, like you were mentioning, have that so-called buddy that can help you explain real estate a little bit, finances, accounting, taxes, things like that maybe are not your strong suit, and give you a little bit more confidence. And so you're gonna be able to have a bit more confidence going into conversations with executives, with different types of individuals that you may have been a little bit nervous about before. And so I think the potential for all three is there. It's just going to depend on the individual using it the right way to its full potential.
Yeah, these are some good comments, and I think it's true, right? All three. So can it be that workforce disruptor that eats away? Yeah, right. Being honest. Can it be a multiplier? Absolutely. Can it be something that helps us get the next gig? I remember years ago, it was probably in the 90s, I remember working in the service desk was my first big job. And I remember password resets was always a big part of a help desk, right?
Still is.
Still is.
Yeah.
Still is, especially on a Monday after a holiday, those nightmares. But I remember when those first automated tools came out, automatic password reset, it was the end of the world. Everybody was going to lose their jobs and there would be nothing. And if all you did was reset passwords, then yes, there was not a job for you. But there was other, right? Passwords, one, have never all gone away. No. And help desks have clearly never all gone away because we keep forgetting our passwords. So I love the comments because it tells us a lot of our futures dependent on what we're going to do, which brings me on to this next question, because I'm going to skip some. I'm thinking about what matters to us. A lot of, even in that survey, that index report, it showed that lots of folks, most of us, feel more comfortable if our employer has a specific strategy for enabling their teams to get set for this AI-generated world. Why would you say clarity is so important?
I think to the point of employees being afraid of losing their jobs. when there is a strategy that's out there, and I talk specifically about replacing tasks and not jobs. We're not going to replace people. We're going to replace some of the BS, the boring stuff that they do, in order to make them more effective in their job. Having that structured plan that gives them the tools they need to learn, the budget to do to buy the tools and implement them, just gives more clarity to what the future looks like in this world where clarity is really hard to get.
Yeah, I think it's impossible to learn when your amygdala is activated, right? Your fight or flight. That and so if immediately you're in a place of fear, you're not going to want to lean in. You're going to feel like you're training your replacement, like a lot of things, right? And so that clarity is really important. I think also though, helping them understand that what good looks like in terms of our top performers in the future are people that are leveraging these tools, right? And so and understanding that, if you want career growth, all of those pieces. Now, we've had to make time for them to learn them because guess what? Everybody's schedule is already 110% full, likely if you're, working at any company. And so creating that time in that space, but doing it in a way that's safe so that they're not immediately in that fight or flight mode, I think is really important. That's where clarity helps.
Yeah, I think the amygdala comment is on point because the other thing is, what are you hearing out there? You're hearing, hey, this is going to be the greatest thing for civilization ever, or it might destroy us. And, and even if you're in a company talking about it, they're like, oh, that's amazing, we want to use it, but don't put any of our material, non-public information in it because it might get out. And so I think there's a lot of it is that confusion and fear until you can get, it's okay, we have this sandbox for you, here's some tools to try, here's our expectation of what we want you to do with it. It helps a lot.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. If there's no clarity around, what you're allowed to do with it and in your company, I think it's going to not only scare everybody, but also scare them to the point where they're not even going to try and not going to try to learn it and possibly even push back against it. And so I think having that clarity, those as we heard in the presentation before, having the policies and the governance in place, so your employees feel confident in trying to learn these things and actually use them and what they can and can't do is really what's going to move that forward.
Good stuff. So we're talking about, and that was great on what an organization can do, what they can do from there. Now, from a skills perspective, and I thought it was good at dinner last night before we were talking. We that conversation about the skills work that the University of Phoenix has done too, and that's such a big important piece. But now, when you're talking about AI focused skills, right? And we talked about our employees, we all want it. We want to feel like we're being trained for the next big thing. What would you say are the most important skills? And I'm not even talking technical, right? So take technical skills out of it. But from a business perspective, from a human perspective, what do you think those key skills that we should be focusing on now to be ready?
Yeah, we actually had an offsite last May with my leadership team and defined what we think are still the valuable human skills in a AI first world, right? What are the things that are probably more important as you get into there? And then also we kind of did it on a matrix because I guess I said I'm a reform consultant. It was a 2x2. How easy are those things to either teach or learn, right? And so things like critical decision making, discernment or taste, so knowing what good looks like. The models are still really bad at that stuff, right? And being able to become what we're calling kind of an AI orchestrator. So being able to, like you said, not just, some of these things are kind of sycophants. They will just tell you that you're amazing. It's the best idea they've ever heard, right? So how do you challenge that? How do you get it to a good outcome? And then kind of letting the AI do the things that AIs are really good at and keeping the humans in the center of that piece. But you first have to start with kind of what good looks like and be very intentional. So, every month we have a competencies champion for a specific competency, like those pieces. Like, we're having to roll it out and then build that into our performance management structure as well. Right. So it's a very comprehensive look at it. You can't just say, hey, go out and watch these 6 YouTube videos and you're there. Right.
So you have it in your performance management process too?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's exactly a skill, but it's something that I got from Ted Lasso too, and it's be curious, not judgmental.
Yeah.
The great
you need to
philosopher.
maintain that curiosity as you're learning these skills. You need to question the results you get. You need to not just accept kind of the first response or the first thing that you build and keep going back to continue to refine it to make sure that it's getting what you're actually asking for.
That was in the dart scene, right? I think, yeah. Great.
Yeah, I think I heard a great comment at a conference once, and the guy on the panel said, "Don't worry, AI is not going to take your job. Somebody who can write a good prompt, he'll take your job, right?" And so I think that in and of itself is a skill, right? How do you use these tools? And I think that actually relies on kind of the research mindset. So I don't want you to tell me what's the best way to do X because you'll remember all the conversations we had and you'll tell me what I want to hear. I want you to convene a panel of virtual experts from the most highly published people in this field, and I want them to do a debate in front of me, simulated, and come to the best case for doing X. Those little tricks, which you learn along the way after you have the aha moment, those are the skills that I think will be pretty powerful. And to be honest, they're skills that we need today, but today you're kind of using, the rock and the sharp stick. Whoever thought I'd call Google search engine the rock and the sharp stick, right? But it is now. So, but I think those are going to be key going forward.
Can I ask before you go? I just want to make sure we caught that right. You're talking about I want to research a topic. I'm gonna get like 3 of the leaders on that, and then virtually I want to simulate a debate amongst them to inform me.
Panel of experts, right? Because if I'm going to do something on something that I don't know about, who would I, I'd go to the people that are published and the people that have been doing it for years and decades. And I want to hear this camp and this camp, and I want them to debate each other. And you can actually set it up to do that in front of you and watch, and then refine it as you go. Because to Tim's point, if you just tell me this, well, you're a glorified Google search engine. We jokingly in our company call it, you're at white belt level, right? I need you at purple where you're convening the panel of experts. But you have to have that mindset of, okay, well, I'm not the smartest person in the room. I don't want the opinion of one person. I want all the good opinions. So don't ask generically, ask specifically, right? How would Elon Musk and Altman argue this out, right? And what conclusion would they come from, to?
Yeah, there's actually a great Claude skill called the Council, which brings that in. It's one of those markdown files you talked about. So it automatically sets it up so that they're going to argue back and forth. So there's a lot of emergent components there. And you can borrow, instead of white belt, you can borrow the Huggies pull-ups thing if you want.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going with it as well. So I think it does 2 things. To become good at using these AI tools, it's actually going to make you better at certain roles as well, because you're going to have to be very specific with the way you're articulating what you want it to do. You're not going to be able to be as vague as you might be with someone that you've worked with for 5 years and they understand what you mean. When you just say, hey, I need this report, and they know exactly what you mean because you've worked with them for 5 years. These tools don't. So you have to be very specific, and you have to articulate it in a way that you're not leaving very vague things for it to just randomly do. And so that's something that's also going to make you better in other areas as well, because you'll start communicating better and start actually communicating with what you're asking it to do and things like that. And so some of those things I think are where that's going to help as well.
And parliamentary procedure, I'm going to hand this back to Tim because I think he should start next time, because I just realized we keep draining all the answers.
Exactly,
and poor Tim's like, well, yeah, I agree with what they said.
Thank you, yes. I'll yield my time to the senator.
Yeah, for Mr. Tim Reif is right there. So this is good. So luminaries, you might be seeing one of the last in-person panels, because coming soon, 2027, there might be a virtual panel of going back and forth. Yeah. But that's you talk about, think about what's possible. I haven't even thought about that before. I've been using stuff with podcasts, but having virtual things to really train us, and that really does speak to like our skill, our intelligence, years of experience, still vital in the world that we're in and shaping the future going forward. But let me bring you back down again. So Lem talked about, we already know if we're going to school or if we have kids in school, I think I got the impression that software engineering isn't something that you would be steering me towards these days. But knowledge is power. So what skills, what functions within large organizations do you see being reshaped the fastest by artificial intelligence? And what should we be on the lookout for? You get to go first.
Yeah, so it's interesting you brought that up. I think there's a couple of misconceptions in terms of software engineering. Yes, some of the junior software engineering, it's not going to be quite the same. But software engineering is, in terms of learning software engineering, is still a very important skill. Understanding the systems engineering that goes into it, the hardware, how these things are working. These skills can still help you significantly with using AI, with doing these jobs, as well as things like statistics, which are the backbone of these models, and probabilistic models and things. So I think software engineering will change. However, like the higher level, like the solutions architects, the systems engineers, those things are, I don't see those going away anytime soon. Now with some other things, some other areas that AI is going to be helping with, it's going to be helping with the growth, or excuse me, the productivity of back-end shops, right? So like accounting, your even your marketing, all these things that the company is doing, those kind of things are gonna be impacted greatly, and it's gonna be really a great opportunity for all of those. I still think that software engineering has its place, but I don't know that it's going to look the same, is the way I would say it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the primary targets for huge change are anything that's generative, if you're creating content, and then most things that are analytical. If it's something that other people have analyzed in history, let's say. What I used to pitch to our executive leadership team initially was the magical AI dust can't figure out anything that you can't figure out. But if you have a task or a process where you think, wow, if I just had 50 people to do that, I could get it done in 2 days, that's the target, right? So those kind of functions, I think, will be the most affected. Hopefully, if you get out in front of it and understand it, you can shift from, doing that, if that's what you do, to orchestrating that to whatever else. I think the other thing that's going to be significantly impacted is, and you're already seeing it, is entrepreneurs, right? We talked earlier about, now I have someone I can ask about real estate, international law. The aha moment for our CEO was when he said, I've got this visa thing that I've got to figure out, and it's complex because blah, blah, blah. And our front office receptionist said, give me a minute. Claude, boom, there it is. There's everything you need to do. I printed you out an instruction sheet. Off you go. That was his, wait a minute. So I think any of that stuff will be affected. Hopefully there'll be, plus and the minus.
I think it's going to evolve differently over time, and that those routine things are going to be affected first. So software engineering is not dead. Writing code by hand, that's gone. There will still be the need for software engineers to do the orchestration, to understand the complex problems, but they'll be able to write so much code more quickly because of the tools. I think the other good example that I heard more recently was radiology. Looking at scans, and there was this fear that radiologists were going to go away because AI is so much better at reading scans. Well, what happened? The number of radiologists went up. The number of scans that hospitals are doing went way up because there's money behind it as well. But there's the skill set of interacting with the doctor, interacting with the patient, that is much harder to be replaced. So some of those jobs are actually going to increase. I think, the first things that I'm seeing be replaced, sales development reps, those numbers are going to shrink. We will still need them. We won't need as many because we can develop content to push out. Customer service, we already talked about it. I think there's going to be a lot more agents. We already had ticket deflection 15 years ago, starting where it was, okay, go find your own answer, but now we can actually respond with the answers. Those things will be impacted first. In the finance function, I see the future where there's $100 million companies where there's 2 to 3 people in a finance function because we have all of these agents. Agents will be on the organization chart, We'll have owners, we'll have personas, we will have different agents that do the different tasks, but we'll still need the people at the top.
Yeah, I mean, ditto, because I'm filling in for Tim's in spot here. But the anchor leg. No, but I think I've come to think of it a little bit differently and closer to the last point that you just said. I think instead of imagining a 10 to 15% productivity gain in some of these places, we are trending towards single human whole departments or functions. And it's going to take a special human to orchestrate all of those agents. But the majority of the org chart will be made up of agents and not humans. Now, you can think of that as, well, where's all that salary going to go and all the people and all the things. I think at University of Phoenix, we're thinking about all of the things that we've wanted to do but couldn't get to, all of the adjacent places that we wanted to go in ed tech and other places. Like, how can we then kind of take that human capital and funnel it into those places? I think the other thing that's just important to understand about where this technology is, one, the models are as bad today as they're ever going to be. They're only going to get better, right? Two, this is an exponential change. Humans are very bad at understanding exponential change and things that move that fast. And we're standing on the very front of the exponential right now. It may not feel like it because you're usually looking backwards at how fast things have changed in the past. But there's also this other kind of countervailing force called the absorption. And the absorption is how fast a company can do it. You still have sourcing and legal and these guardrails and all these things. So the models are going to climb super, super fast. Traditional, especially larger companies, are going to have a hard time with that absorption. So we still have some time. And that kind of gap, that window, is where you all can be the experts and the leaders and driving that. And then, as far as I have a daughter who's a junior in college, right? I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen entry level consulting jobs. And if that doesn't happen, then where's your next level of leadership that's going to have gone through the productive struggle going to come from, right? Because now they're enabled with all these things. So I think eventually it's going to be amazing. I think we will get to a point of 10 to 20% frictional unemployment, potentially, while we catch up, just because of the speed at which it's going to move.
I love these different perspectives we're getting, and that's right. It's a big topic. It's a big conversation for us in our careers, for those that have kids, trying to help them navigate. These are the types of challenges that we're facing today. Now, I want to leave time, because I want to get your final thoughts and stuff. But I want to. We have the talent here, but we have these luminaries and guests in here. We want to leave some time for question and answer. So I want you to think about some final words of wisdom that you all are going to have to share for us. But before we do that, do we have any questions from the audience?
You talk about finance and accounting. My concern is how much of a risk with these systems communicating with other systems going in as far as data breaches and security, particularly when it comes to information that maybe you don't want to be public, but the company requires it to function. And I believe you mentioned that one of these different apps talking to another data format that's talking to another one. These might be going on. You're not even aware of who's talking to who or how much information is being given.
I'll jump in on that one and then pass it off. I think from my seat, it is making sure that you have your good structure in place, similar to how you would employee access. You have your access identity manager, I believe that's what that's called. Your agents will need to fit into that, and they'll need their own personas on what level of security do they have. To make that happen, you need a couple things. You need a good file structure to make sure that what files can be accessed by which people and which agents, and which ones are allowed to leave external versus which have to stay internal. All of that has to be developed. That's no different than it was for people. That foundation is there. Now it's just translating it to the other systems. And then it will require us to change the way we think about security. The new models that are coming out, you can believe what you want about Mythos. I think it was a publicity stunt more than anything to try and build interest behind it. But they paused launching this model because of the security that they were concerned about. We'll be able to use those tools to also harden the security as well. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's not something that we haven't dealt with before in different technology evolutions.
Yeah, I have this fight with my head of enterprise architecture all the time. And I'm glad you mentioned probabilistic versus deterministic, right? So some of the accounting things you still want to be deterministic. I mean, they're the right outcomes, the right ways to do all of it. Now, the agent can orchestrate that, just maybe not using its model, right? It's the thing orchestrating, a legacy system. I think on the cybersecurity front, just kind of to take that, the cost of finding a 0-day vulnerability is approaching zero. And so what I mean by that, whether you believe mythos or not, tools that we already have existing make it very profitable for very seedy individuals to use these tools to find weaknesses in systems. That even if there are only 2 companies that use the system, that didn't used to be profitable, right? Because like I had to have a whole engineering team try to find a thing and get in. Now it's there. So what does that mean for companies? Like, one, we need to rethink, cybersecurity. We need to arm our teams with this AI. So it's an AI versus AI kind of thing, a little bit. It's like spy versus spy, that old thing. It's really that. And then I think the other thing individually, don't think of some of the traditional, like banks are very slow to move with some of this stuff, right? So like diversify, make sure you have your password, like all of your own personal security audit, do one of those as well, because it's here, it's not coming, it's here, right? So I don't mean to be alarmist about that. I was talking to somebody, I created my own AI avatar, and it sounds a lot like me, whatever. Like your family should have a safe word or a code or something so that you know when someone calls. Just little things like that. As we're adopting it, let's avoid the dark side.
Oh yeah. So this is good news. This is good news.
Yeah, thank you. It's good
I
news.
was going to say, no,
yeah.
the good news is, again, as AI is going, the need for cybersecurity agents and representatives is going through the roof. And this little fun exercise, right? How many of you here use a password manager? Right? Nope. So don't raise your hand on this one. How many of you use the same password for lots of different things? Do not raise your hand, right? Know the answer to that. So when you're talking about all those security issues and this just gets higher and higher, which again, on the other side of the house, you mentioned something else. The other good news, Fortune 500 companies, big organizations, they are slow to adapt. For whatever reason, do not want to be on the front line of everything, to be on the news when something happens, which gives some time. But that just shows this stuff is happening. And I'm a finance. I have a trading account where I have a bot doing all of my trading. That's the trust factor where I've gotten to. So it's here. Great question.
Good question.
I would also say that going back to the presentation we saw earlier, that's why we're starting to see a big movement towards on-device, smaller models that can be on-device, so they're sovereign models. They're not going back to OpenAI's cloud servers. They're not going back to Claude's cloud servers. They're staying on your device. And so those are here. They're not quite as good yet, but they're getting there. And so I think that's another thing that's going to it's coming for partially that reason.
Yeah, I think from the security perspective, it's the same exact problems, right? Because if a bot's going to do it tomorrow, you've got a human somewhere trying to do it today, and hopefully you're catching it with, DLP or some kind of tool, right? I think the other thing that it's going to mean, though, is that the bigger entities are most likely going to try to do internal first. Like, let's do our own small language model before we go and pass any data or let Claude in or any of that. I don't know how successful that's going to be, because if you're going to keep up, you're going to need to do something. But just so nobody sleeps tonight, I'll see your cybersecurity and raise you data privacy as well, because we have PHI, right? So that's the other one that's scary is, did my bot just talk to somebody from the EU and now CDHP is involved and I have all this other stuff that I have to deal with? So yeah, none of the IT guys are sleeping.
Data privacy.
But we weren't anyways.
Data privacy is a real thing. Our data's private.
Well,
I'm joking.
I didn't say our data was
The
private,
illusion of data.
but someone will come calling.
Oh yeah, they will. Any other questions? Perfect.
Yeah, hi, Tomas Leon here. Thank you for this excellent, timely discussion. It's exciting or scary depending on however you're looking at this moment in time. Given that there's a plethora of solutions and options here, both for individuals and for companies, how do you recommend individuals or companies prioritize what to try, what to implement, what to test? Because it could be overwhelming.
I'm holding one, so I'll go first. I think Lem laid out those 8 points, pretty solid. I think the getting to the aha moment is a big deal, right? So what we did, until we got to that aha moment for the boss, which then everybody was forced, okay, now you will have yours right now, is get people experimenting with stuff that's safe, right? Go plan your weekend, plan your travel, ask about what car to buy next, whatever thing that is super safe, and you can just go for it. And then I think once you get to the aha moment, like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize what this could do, then you've got to get the framework where you're measuring and governing, right? What are we trying to achieve? Because if you just let everybody go for it, it'll be fun, but it'll be wasted energy in many cases, right? But if you can say, wow, like for us, we have chiropractic data on hundreds of millions of visits. We literally have more chiropractic data than anyone else on the planet because we have all these stores and all these visits. So our kind of, BHAG was, what if we could analyze all that and determine trends and outcomes in that healthcare data, right? Well, we're not going to upload hundreds of millions of visits to Claude in 30 megabyte, chunks, right? So, but having that started us down this path. Well, let's pull a little bit out and let's anonymize it and let's give that to Claude. Or great trick if you've got private data is don't put it up there, have Claude write you something to transform it or anonymize it so you can then look at it, right? So it's that kind of stuff. I think one is the aha moment, because what happened for us was people just kind of fiddled around with it. And I was sending out weekly, hey, try this. No, it was glorified Google. Once they had the aha moment and said, wait a minute, I can upload our standard MSA and compare every other MSA that I get to that, and it'll just tell me whether it matches or where it doesn't match. Yes. Oh, legal just had their aha moment. Now they're hungry, right? Once they get hungry, then you get that governance framework. You say, okay, how are you going to do this? The other one I highly recommend is we did an adoption score for our different departments and say, what are you using? How are you using it? How much time are you saving? Great. Accounting, you're at a 1. You're doing, okay. Marketing, you're at a 5. That's amazing. You're saving the company money and but now accounting looks over and goes, well, I'm at a 5. I don't want to be at a 1, right? So anything you can do, like Lem was talking about in that structure, it helps you move it forward instead of just like random activity.
This is good. I was going to say real quick going in, and I don't think we had any more questions. And I know some of you have, there's one more after that. Good. And I know some of you have shopping plans, so we're going to try to keep this.
Yeah, we don't want to be
on
standing
time,
between
too.
you and that.
Yeah, I know. Just real quick, those two quick things. And it was funny when we were talking about the change, and I think you mentioned it, Jim. Whatever we're seeing today, this is the worst version it's going to be. I'm on a panel at a conference in a couple of weeks that we started. We pitched an idea for 3 months ago. It was about tools and stuff using. We've changed it so many times. We were stupid to think that we could submit an artificial intelligence topic 3 months ago without it completely changing. So that's also the fun part, right? And that's I was talking to another peer, talking about how can we get changes within organization. She's like, yeah, we did a hackathon, which you mentioned as well, but we put money behind it. So we put 100,000. The first place team got to split 50. Second and third got to split 25,000. They got half of it when the idea was approved, the other half when we implemented it. She's like, they've been incredible successes. Then she added, her team's half the size of what it was 2 years ago, right? So you got the ups and you write both sides of it, but we have to be having those conversations because that's the reality that we're in. What's our question?
I'll make this quick. So we were talking earlier with Lem about chats, agents, and devices. So I was thinking about that, and are we in the agent zone, or do we need to start budgeting and get into the devices zone to, have that rate of absorption to be on the cutting edge of the exponential change and not be a traditional organization that's falling behind and trying to catch up? Like, what would those agents or devices, what would some of the primary ones be to put in place and to start budgeting for? Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, I haven't. So I think agents are what we're going to, like, most of us are going to feel, unless you're in manufacturing, more of a physical space. Like so in terms of the knowledge work, the agent phase is there. One of the things I would say to think about is token cost is going to be the new labor cost, right? And so thinking about these agents don't run for free. Now they run for 1/10 of what a human probably does or whatever, right? Even the most expensive ones. And then the other piece is for our software engineers, we're almost thinking of it like NIL money, that you have in college sports. Like the more token budget you can give to a 10x software engineer, the more you're going to keep and retrain them because they're solving all these problems. The other piece is the one caution I would say is there's kind of this development of AI psychosis a little bit where like you get almost addicted because your agents are running overnight. You're never shut off. You're getting a pull request from one of your agents at dinner. You have to approve, right, with human in the loop. So it's like we got to make sure that we're watching kind of the human wellness also as we go through this. But from a budgeting standpoint, think about that kind of token budget as almost a corollary to how you think about salary now is what I'd say.
Love it. Love it. So I want to ask all of you this question, and it's dealer's choice. You get to pick how you're going to answer it. Whether it's from the viewpoint of a person in the workforce, one of us, or if we have leaders of organizations here as well. From either vantage point, looking 3 years, which is an eternity, into the future, what would you say would separate those that have really succeeded and not just kept up, but really taken advantage of this, as opposed to those that are left behind? What words of wisdom do you have for us?
Because mine's going to be the most boring answer because it's not related to AI. It's like anything else. If you put a framework in place, set goals, measure against the goals, then you'll be one of the ones that make it. And that's not AI related. That's like anything you do, right? So I think because it's so exciting, people tend to just like get excited and run off. And unless you're saying, well, hold on, what are you trying to do? Are you progressing towards that goal? Then you're just going to have a whole lot of activity and not a lot of progress.
I think adding on to that a little bit, the whole system has to evolve. A 10x engineer doesn't improve the overall business if you can't then take that product that they built to market, improve your sales and those things. So building the whole system around it fits into that plan. And then similarly on the time saved, it doesn't matter if you save 10 hours if you're not going to redeploy that to somewhere else more valuable. Like it's coming from the finance side. You tell me you cut your labor hours by 50%, yet I don't see any changes in your headcount. You didn't actually save anything. Maybe the people are slightly happier, but show how you connect it to the results of the business, not just the individual transactions.
Yeah, OpenAI just published this notion of kind of the future of work that's not fully dystopian. They try to be utopian a little bit, but I would say it's really important, especially as leaders, that you are actually leading in the space by using it, right? And so how's it impacting your life? How are you, because until you have that aha moment yourself and it becomes deeply ingrained in your own personal workflow, you're not going to, like everybody's going to see through you that's already had that aha moment, right? And your people aren't going to believe it. You're not going to see all the different use cases and all the different opportunities that you'll see. So you have to equip yourself first. It's like maybe on the plane, it's like, first put on your own mask and then help others. Like this is the same thing with AI, I think.
So I think the companies that are going to be successful are going to have a very deliberate process of rolling this out and not, to your point, getting, oh, I can do this and this and this, and you just try and do everything, and then the ROI is going to be terrible. Talking about token costs, if you're doing stuff like that, and so you're gonna start. If you start doing that, you're gonna start seeing some really negative results. So being very structured in the process of rolling it out and having, to your business points, strict ROIs, payback periods, everything you need to be looking for before you decide to roll out the cool new project that you heard about on, wherever, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram. It needs to be tied to your business. And if you do that, you're going to be successful, and you're not going to blow up the company by wasting a bunch of money on cool projects.
Wow. Did you appreciate the insights we got this afternoon? Yeah. And it's these type of conversations, right? Differing opinions, different perspectives that lead us all to the best journey. So I'm looking forward to the rest of We'll enjoy our afternoon, but we'll have some time at dinner. Looking forward to continuing to connect because I'm sure there's some other rich lessons we can learn from each other.